Welcome back to iCanMod. I am Tobias, and today we're going to be talking about our new series entitled Clean This. Alright, so why are we doing a series called Clean This? I've actually had this question asked to me a couple of times. I think one of the most important things that you can do for your computer is maintain it. Electrical components, they don't like things like dust and stuff getting in them. So the idea behind this series is to show you how to clean not just your case and blow the dust out, but how to also clean individual components that might be a little bit older, might be starting to show signs of not performing at how they were when they were brand new. Things you can do to make sure that they're sort of performing at optimum levels. Now, question for you. When was the last time that you cleaned your computer? Well, if you're like me before I started doing a lot more tech stuff since coronavirus started, I probably not as often as I should. I let a lot of things get in the way. I chose to do other things rather than maintain my equipment. So what I'm going to do in this first video is I'm going to talk about some of the things that we're going to use during the course of this series, and just some basic things that you can have on hand to do basic maintenance. So the first video that we're going to do is just sort of a basic clean out, just blowing out dust of your system, and the proper ways to do that. And then following on from that will be, how do you clean your motherboard? How do you clean your graphics card? How do you break down a graphics card to its core components and do what's called a deep clean on it? I've noticed on YouTube that a lot of people are loving deep clean PC videos, but a lot of people don't actually go in and tell you how to do it step by step. So that's what we're aiming to do. So as you can see behind me, all this stuff is the bare minimum that I use to deep clean a computer. So let's start taking a look at it. All right, let's talk about the first thing. If you're going to just be standard, just blowing some dust out with a can of compressed air or even an electronic air duster, you probably don't need to wear these. But when I'm actually cleaning a computer properly, and I'm going to be handling components and I'm going to be pulling things out of the case, I generally tend to always wear gloves. And I recommend these. So these are, it's probably not going to focus properly, but these are by Sabco. They're black nitrile disposable gloves. Now, nitrile is similar to latex. It's, to my understanding, from the same family, but it's a bit thicker and it's a bit more resistant to splitting or nicking. So it's not, when you're handling sharp components where you've got sort of weld spots and componentry on, especially on the back of motherboards and stuff, you're not going to pierce the rubber as easy, or the nitrile as easy as you would with just plain latex gloves. So it's going to give you a bit more protection. And if you've got a really, really dirty computer, do yourself a favor and wear some gloves. When I am wearing gloves, I also generally wear, or if I'm pulling components out of a computer, I also wear an anti-static strap. So that's going to lead me to the next thing. I always recommend having a good toolkit on hand. I use iFixit. I bought this thing 3 years ago maybe, and I use it all the time, not just for my computer but for other electronics as well. This is the Pro Kit, so it comes with quite a lot of tools. There's a lot of pliers and tweezers and like splades, I guess, to sort of crack open components. It also comes with an amazing screwdriver set. So this actually is magnetized into the set, but you can pull it out. It has the screwdriver, it has an extension, and then it has all those bits there. So pretty much anything you're going to need is in this kit. They're all labeled, they're all sizes and what they do and what they are. There's even magnets and stuff in there too if you need to retrieve things, like I did on my PC build and dropped a screw into my power supply. That was great. Anti-static strap. This is an anti-static strap. So this actually will go around your wrist, right, like so. Or if you want, you can put it around your ankle if that's easier, so you've got your hands free. And then you want to ground this, so you want to attach this to something that's going to ground. One thing that I do have coming on the way, or it should be hopefully on its way soon, is I'm actually ordering a anti-static mat from Gamers Nexus. I would recommend, if you're going to do sort of more builds and stuff all the time, definitely look into an anti-static mat, and Gamers Nexus sell one that is pretty cool. So I'd recommend going to that. So shout out to Steve and the guys at Gamers Nexus. It's an awesome shop that they have there. Now, next component. Doing basic cleaning, you're going to need something that's going to blow the dust out. This is a can of compressed air. This one in particular, Laser make these. You can get them from Harvey Norman here in Australia. So they just blow the air out. I think they're about $9.95 or $12.95 or something per can. I keep quite a few on hand, but I'm actually changing to an electric air duster soon. I'm just waiting for the one I want to come back in stock. Now, a couple of key things with compressed air that I need to tell you about. When you are using a can of compressed air, you must keep it horizontal to whatever you're blowing out. If you do it like this, eventually water will start coming out. So we keep it horizontal, that way water won't come out, as obviously it's compressed air. If the can gets cold, don't stress, that's natural. It may even develop condensation on it depending how often you are using it or how much you're using it. So if it starts to get condensation, I do recommend you stop what you're doing and wait for it to sort of normalize in the temperature, or do what I do and use a different can. So that's why I have multiple. Throw that one back up there. Now, cleaning solutions. Obviously, if you're going to be cleaning things, you want something that's going to actually clean it, especially if you're deep cleaning or if you've got grime on say your motherboard or in something. I cannot stress enough, we use, and you can check every IT or tech YouTuber, they will tell you you need isopropyl alcohol, and it needs to be 90% or higher grade. Okay. What I have here is two different types. This one, if you live in Australia, you can get this from JCar. It's about $15, I think, 250 ml, 99.8% pure. Okay, only comes in a 250 ml thing. I'm actually in the process of trying a new brand, or new brand to me, I believe they've been around for a while, called Sydney Solvents. And this is 99% pure isopropyl alcohol. It is a 1 litre thing I got for about $20, so it's a bit more economical. And look, as long as it's, I prefer 99% or higher, but you need it to be at least 90%. Now, the reason we use isopropyl alcohol is because of it's such a high alcohol content, it dries nearly instantly once it's used, and it won't leave behind any water residue. So it's safe to use on your electrical components as long as you're not turning them on or having them turned on while you're cleaning. So if you're using this, you need to remove the component from all possible electrical circuits. Have the component stand alone, no power connected, and then you can start cleaning. Otherwise, you will damage your system. Okay. A couple of other things, I guess, other than that, for me, when we're deep cleaning, how are you going to clean your motherboard, right? There's a lot of transistors, resistors, little chips and things on there. You don't want to damage them. You don't want to knock them off the board by accident. I use these. Now these are, yes, they're a beauty tool, but they do an amazing job. They're Q-tips. So like what you use for your ear, these are precision ones, so they're used for nails. And the reason we use precision ones, I don't know if you can see, but it actually goes to a, I'm not going to get it shot. That's the other problem I have. I need autofocus camera and I'm working on it, it's coming. But it comes to a point. So it allows you to get into little places with that isopropyl alcohol and really clean dust out to make sure that it's clean as possible. So that is a necessary thing. Now, a lot of this stuff you can get off Amazon. If you're an Amazon Prime member, you can get it generally shipped overnight and for free. So I will try to link as much of this to Amazon as possible, but at least you guys know what to sort of search for and what to look for. The other thing that you can use when you're cleaning, and this, I have not been able to find this in Australia. I've got to check Bunnings though, but I don't know if you can get it. This is called shop towel. You know, I've had people go, yeah, but that's just, you know, bloody kitchen roll. No, it's not. This is actually thicker. It's more porous. It is used by mechanics a lot to clean up oil and stuff like that. It will actually absorb stuff like that really well. If you're cleaning thermal paste off a CPU, it's very greasy, very, you know, thick, and the kitchen rolls are not great. So I would use generally the precision Q-tips to clean my CPU, and then I'd give it a final wipe with this. But these are also great for doing wide open areas, so heat sinks, you know, on your motherboard or the case itself, that sort of wide open areas. Get some isopropyl alcohol on that and give it a wipe down. Happy days. The brand of this one is called Scott's, and you can get that off Amazon. So next, let's talk about cable man. Well, actually no, let's talk about thermals. So if you're doing a deep clean on a computer, you're probably going to take the cooler off your CPU, and potentially you're going to take apart, you know, the heat sinks off your power distribution on the motherboard, and also removing or breaking down your graphics card. I always keep multiple tubes of thermal paste on me. At the moment, I'm using the Arctic MX4. It's really sort of personal preference. They say Thermal Grizzly is the best, but I'm currently trying this Arctic MX4 and I am liking it, so that's doing really well. And when we in a later video, we'll show you how to properly paste a CPU or paste you know, your chips on your graphics card and things like that. Once you've done that, you may also notice that there is what's called thermal pads. They're little thin pads that sit on top of certain chips on the components, and you'll need thermal pads to replace those. Now, the trick with thermal pads is they're all different sizes, all different thicknesses is the point. I recently did a graphics card and I mismeasured the thickness of the thermal pad, so I've got to go back and redo that one. But you'll see it's looks something like that. Yeah, it's almost like a rubbery sort of compound that transmits heat. So what that does is remove heat from that chip that it's sitting on, and it will contact with a heat sink of some kind. So they come in generally 0.5 mil, 1 mil, and 1.5 mil. I haven't seen any 2s around, but they do, you know, there's all different thicknesses. So make sure that you get your thickness correct. When it comes to the next part, we talk about, you know, when you build a computer especially, and if you're going to tear things down and put it back together, you're going to want to make sure your cables are managed. For that, you're going to use something like this, as was going around as a troll, tweezers, no, zip ties. So just a bit of plastic with a locking tip on the end. You put it in and you pull it, and then it wraps around the cable and keeps it nice and tight. The other thing that you can use now, and what is getting more and more common, are reusable zip ties. So these are nylon. I might use the red one actually because it might be easier to see. I'll get them apart. So basically one side is just, it's like a Velcro strap, I guess. So you put it around the cable, pull it nice and tight, and then just place it on itself, and it holds things nice and tight together. They're great, but in some circumstances, depending on the size of the area you've got to work in, it may be better to use those, you know, the plastic ones, because you can trim them and have as little material in there as possible. So how are you going to trim them? Well, I always recommend keeping a nice, good, sharp pair of, I guess you can call them side cutters. I use one that comes to a very fine point because you want to get in and snip just the zip tie or the hole or whatever's holding the cable together, not the cable itself. So if it's got a nice sharp thin point, you can be a bit more precise with it. These are very sharp. If you're a young person, disclaimer for this and for the thing I'm going to show you next, have an adult around if you are young and your parents don't like the idea of you playing with sharp tools, and get them to help you with it, because I'd hate to see you hurt yourself, cut yourself, things like that. So that is the warning, that is the disclaimer. Side cutters. Now, if you're building a computer, you're going to have lots of boxes to open and potentially throw away. I have a box cutter knife. These are very sharp as well. So you want to get one that folds away or has some kind of protective measure in place so it doesn't leave the blade exposed. And, you know, young ones, great that you're getting into computer building, great that you're interested, and we love that you're on this adventure with us. But please, please be careful and just have mum or dad or an adult, you know, older brother, older sister, whatever, help you with those sharp tools, please. Okay? All right. We've gone through pretty much everything, but the one last thing that I keep around, and this is something, if you are serious and you want to, you know, build computers, you want to maintain computers, you want to look at doing this, you know, as a bit of a side hobby or even a business, up to you. One thing I recommend that you keep around is spares, and also tools to help you. So I went to the reject shop, which if you're not in Australia, it's like a $2 shop or a cheap shop. And got this little plastic case. I think it's like a nail case or something. And in here I have different varieties of thumb screws. I also have spare screws for, you know, cases, motherboards, things like that. But then I also keep USBs in here too. So I have my Windows installation USB, which is always, I update that every couple of weeks. I have all the BIOS updates for every motherboard that I have ever installed, or at least the ones that are relevant and sort of new. I keep ones for Radeon software, for the graphics cards or the AMD software, and NVIDIA and Intel software stay on one together. Then I've got copies of my product keys, and then I've got benchmark and testing software and diagnostic and recovery software. So I have quite a few USBs, screws and things that just all sit in this nice little case. That way, generally if I need something, I've always got it on hand. It does take a lot to keep maintained. You know, it's a lot of updating and a lot of, you know, making sure you've got the most up-to-date files on there. But when you are trying to do something quickly and you're trying to build and you're like, oh, I need that, you know that you've got it. And you don't have to stress out. You can just focus on getting the build right. But other than that, that's pretty much it. So they're the main tools that you're going to use. All right, so we've talked about the things that we're going to use in this series, and obviously there's a lot of components in your computer, so we're going to dial it right down to each individual basic component in the next videos that you'll see of the series. You know, even down to just cleaning a fan. There's a bit of an art to it, to making sure it's super clean, especially when it comes to the way it's constructed. We won't be pulling it apart because that's just silly, but we'll show you how to really get in there and clean it. So, hope you enjoy this series. If there's anything in particular you want to see first when it comes to cleaning, just put it in the comments of this video or shoot us a message on Instagram. So we know what order to film things in, but we'll try and get them to you as quick as possible. Now these videos are not going to come out super quick. Obviously I'm in the process over the next month or two moving to a new property and I have a lot on at work, but we'll endeavour to get them out as quickly as we can. So from us here at iCanMod, thank you, and we hope you enjoy this series. But as we always say, keep building and keep learning.